Fabrizio Romano once again tweeted last evening, as he has for a month now, that basically Messi to PSG is pretty much done and dusted. All that's missing is a signature, and that may be the case ultimately. And that's a weird thing about the reporting on this stuff. I only really get in the game when I feel like there's misinformation out there, and I like to put it out to clear it up. It's very much a negotiation with Inter Miami. Lionel Messi is very interested in what Inter Miami have to offer. So the notion that he's basically done and dusted, signed off on PSG, then why is he still taking meetings? Why is he still actively engaged in conversations with Inter Miami? You could say, oh, it's just a dog and pony show to drive up the price on PSG. How is Inter Miami driving up the price on PSG? If this were about upfront money, he would have signed it a month ago. It's not about that. Inter Miami have a different opportunity in front of Lionel Messi. If this were all just a charade, then why is he still in active conversations with Inter Miami? He remains interested.
But the reporter reporting this is the most credible, correct?
Yes.
It's not just his biographer. It's a journalist who doesn't usually get it wrong,
right,
correct?
But if I may, I believe his sources to be tied into PSG, and the Qataris never lose these things. So I'm not surprised that there is a supreme confidence coming from PSG. They would have no reason to be unconfident when it comes to these.
They've never lost anybody.
They can't be leveraged. Is that what you're saying? They cannot be leveraged. Is that what you're saying?
They can, but they don't lose. Kylian Mbappe was a done deal to Real Madrid for 2 years.
Right.
And then his contract comes up, and all of a sudden he's staying, and he's got all the power in the organization, and he's making like 100 million euros a year after tax. They always come up with the most money. Right. Because they have the most money.
I saw you had 5 goals. Was that in a game?
Mbappe?
Yeah, in a cup match, albeit against a 6.
That has to be the greatest game in the history of soccer, right? No one's ever scored 5 before.
No, they have.
Really?
Yeah, they've scored more than that. But look, this is going to boil down to my mentions are going to get dragged if Messi goes to PSG, and that's not what I'm reporting. I don't know where he's going to go. It's a 2-club race right now. There was a very reputable reporter that covers Barcelona that said today, Lionel Messi, this was yesterday when he said when he reported it, would not be signing his extension with PSG. So thankfully, another reputable reporter has come to my aid. All I'm telling you is this is a 2-club race right now. Inter Miami feel very confident. Talks are going to resume this week. So they're in it. That's all I'm saying. Inter Miami is negotiating with Messi's camp, and they feel like they have a strong proposal, and the indication from Messi's camp remains that he's interested. I'm not in the business of making predictions. Might you dig up some old tweets where I kind of say I think it's going to happen? Yeah, but now that I'm in this reporting mode, and don't expect me to come out and break that Messi is signing anywhere. That's not really what I'd like to do here. It's just like to clear up what I feel is misinformation. And as Inter Miami's pursuit of Lionel Messi has continued from well before the World Cup to conversations that have happened years ago leading up to this point, especially over the last 30 days, my confidence has grown in Inter Miami's ability to actually pull this off. And yesterday, there was an interview that made its way out there of Messi speaking to a journalist, and he was smiling, and he sounded like a man that was really satisfied with his legacy, how his career is going. He said that he wanted
his career is gone. He kind of talked about some of it in the past tense.
If you wanted to read into it, Messi did not sound like a player that was super hyped about continuing his journey in Europe. It sounded like that door was maybe closing. And he said specifically that he wanted to close his career in a unique way. And I don't necessarily think that's re-upping with your team. Again, this is a negotiation. The Qataris don't hear no all that often, but this is a player that doesn't necessarily need the money, and this is a legacy play, potentially, and Miami's offer to Lionel Messi, I can tell you definitively, interests Lionel Messi.
But Messi has so much power at the top of that sport right now as a champion and filling the last place in his trophy case that needed filling. He's got all the leverage, and you've been telling us for a while that the Saudis' offer is going to be enormous and is a standing offer, but you don't believe there's any chance that he ends up there.
A couple of weeks ago when I checked in with sources, they didn't feel like he'd be going to Saudi Arabia. If it were about money, that would be the place to go. They offered him twice as much as what Ronaldo was offered. Inter Miami, very much alive in this. What's happened recently is Barcelona, who like to draw out these potential transfers in large part because they have to find levers to pull because they don't have any money and they are not in compliance with financial fair play. So they work in very shady ways to try and get signings registered, which will be a huge issue and a huge hurdle for them to clear with Lionel Messi. Right now, Inter Miami are only worried about Barcelona. It's because Xavi is a manager over there. Busquets, Messi's best friend, plays over there presently. He is also out of contract right now. There was a report yesterday that he is more or less made up his mind and that Barcelona expects him to resign.
What is that?
Right. I think you should pay attention to what some of these things are actually saying. It's very clear that Fabrizio, for as good as he is on all the other beats, and I know he's plugged in with Barcelona and he's certainly plugged in with PSG because that's who was feeding him all the information on the Messi front because he was wrong. And PSG thought he was coming back until he wasn't. And now you see, we're going to suspend him and they'll take a very harsh public stance. I would probably guess that maybe Messi has played his final game for PSG. He'll come back when they have 3 games left and then he'll just get booed? He's already been kind of booed already by that fan base. On his way out, that's not a good situation for him. Right now, Inter Miami thinks that Barcelona is the biggest competition, but if you see the odds from some sports books out there, they have Inter Miami at plus 1,000. And I am here to tell you, Inter Miami's still in regular communication with Messi's camp and still as hopeful as they were several weeks ago, even months ago, when communication began. There's been nothing to dissuade them from this. The only thing is, if they had their way, Messi would have signed by now, and they are in this holding pattern as Barcelona tries to figure out ways to register Lionel Messi.
This is a possible reality of him coming this summer. So what are the things that you have heard that are the things that he needs to possibly make a decision like this?
He's gotten everything that he needs. It's the parameters of this deal with Inter Miami have long been set. He knows what he's getting at Inter Miami. He knows all the machinations of the ownership equity that he would get. There really isn't more negotiating to be done. It's just about merely making a final decision. And with Barca's involvement and with the personal relationships that he has over there, I think everyone expects that to be drawn out a little bit more because what Barca transfer saga hasn't been drawn out as they try to find all these levers to pull and be within financial compliance. And I think that
they're gonna trade in all their used games to GameStop to really get as much money.
I imagine it goes away that most of those Barcelona things, even Messi's own contract, kind of got undone by the Barca of it all. So ultimately, he just needs to make a deal. I know you were asking for a % chance, and I'm not going to do that because that's how you get dragged on social media, and I've been plenty dragged already, even though I've been 100% right the entire time again. But all I'll tell you is that Inter Miami still remain hopeful and confident that they can do this. They're in regular communication with Messi's camp. Every time I send a story about, he's going to Saudi. Anytime I send to my sources, he's going to Barca, they're like, stop following that, unfollow that. That's
I love it.
They're still in communication, man.
And it also should be noted that it's not Inter Miami who's getting Messi, it's MLS. So while I do give Mike credit for saying that Inter Miami is involved, they're like the conduit for the deal that's happening. And it's not MLS, it's not Miami doing the negotiating, it's MLS, because the only chance he has of coming here is if he gets a piece of the Apple deal and gets a piece of the Adidas deal of those sponsorships. This is a league deal, and they're placing him in a market where they need to make sure that they've got stars in order to get the building built, which I assume they've broken ground, and it's opening, I guess, in a year or two. I've not been down to Mel Reese recently.
I have. It looks overgrown like a jungle. It's actually pretty creepy.
Have they not started construction at all?
No. As I understand it, their lease doesn't begin until they start construction. So they've actually saved money against this. And keep in mind, the valuation of the club goes up the second shovels go into dirt. So maybe they're holding off. So Messi, when he agrees to this deal formally and the deal points come out that he has equity in the club, can actually get more initially because the value of this club is about to skyrocket. I will push back on the notion that this is a league deal and not an Inter Miami deal. Inter Miami was the team that has been negotiating with Messi's camp for years. Inter Miami's ownership was the people taking direct face-to-face meetings with Messi's camp. Apple and Adidas came into this very recently. And the league is doing credit to MLS. They are doing whatever they can to help this deal go through, and they're leveraging their partners. But to say that this is a league deal takes credit away from the Moss family and Inter Miami for getting this done.
The Moss family couldn't get the deal done, not because they don't have the money or not because they're not liquid enough.
David, the Moss family just got the deal done. The Moss family just got the deal done.
They could not offer what was needed to even potentially be in the conversation to get Messi. They don't have the ability to offer a piece of the Apple deal. It has to be the league.
You're mistaken. You're mistaken. And the Saudi money late in the game did change the dynamics of the deal and allowed for the league partners to step up to the plate and make this a more robust offer on an annual value basis. But Messi choosing Miami isn't necessarily for dollars. When you have Saudi Arabia coming in offering you essentially $1 billion a year, that is really difficult to say no to. So in a last bit of leveraging, MLS and its league partners had to sweeten the pot to get this deal done.
Mike Ryan is taking a victory lap right here. Tony, how would you describe what Mike Ryan has been doing here as the international reporter, the only one who had everything on the biggest athlete in the world correct, that Messi is coming to Miami? This shit's crazy.
If you're not watching on YouTube, he's got a Messi shirt on, and he's been showing it kind of like somebody would a jersey when they're in front of a camera, and he's got his tongue out. He's doing like this kind of thing where he puts his finger on his elbow when he hits a three, that kind of thing.
Give me my flowers. Right the whole damn time.
Didn't you say that you weren't saying he was coming here? That just it's.
I didn't want to give a prediction. But my reporting the entire time was accurate. While people were saying he was re-signing with PSG, while people were saying Barca, while people were saying it was done and dusted that he was going to Saudi, I remain firm that Inter Miami's contact with Lionel Messi's camp was regular and conversations were deep, deal points were talked out, and that Inter Miami, while dismissed by all of legacy media and all the best insiders that got this story completely wrong, were in this, were a serious threat, were finalists for Lionel Messi, and this was going to be the week. Don't doubt me. We got him. We got him.
To be honest, this is a bigger day for Mike Ryan than it is for Messi.